All right, who's starting this one off? We
I'll
didn't
start.
talk about that.
I'll
Okay.
start. What are we talking about today, Kyle?
I think we're talking about leadership, what leaders should be doing
Right now.
in this crisis.
Yeah. I think this is a good subject. And by the way, these are going to be a series of mini episodes we're going to do, because what else are we going to do? So, one of the things I see with a lot of the business owners I've talked with recently and, just people we're working with on the business side is because of the uncertainty about what's going on and what's going to happen, is there's an uncertainty to say or do anything that could just be reversed next week if there's a total shutdown or if your business is declared as not essential. And that's causing people to do what I think is the worst possible thing you can do in a crisis, and that's be indecisive. In any emergency situation, in any survival situation, let's say you were lost out in the woods, right? Like you have to make a decision about what you're going to do, then you have to go with it. And there's a process for decision making, the OODA loop. Have you ever heard of the OODA loop?
I haven't. What is the OODA loop?
So I think it comes from, I believe, Vietnam, but maybe Korea, fighter pilots and dogfights. And it's observe, orient, decide, and then take action. That's the A.
Okay.
And so you can change the direction you're going in as information changes. The information does change. But by not doing anything, you're putting yourself at risk. And so I see the situation we're in as having two very different outcomes. So outcome one, and the one we all hope happens, is in the next 4 weeks, by mid-April or late April, things are somewhat under control and the shelter-in-place orders and the quarantine orders start to get lifted and businesses start to go back to normal. So that's A. And then B is that doesn't happen, and there's 8 weeks or 12 weeks of similar to what we have now.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, things get pretty bad, right? But the way I look at this and the way I think other business leaders should be looking at it is, in either of those two cases, what you do now should be the same thing. And so I think it's first, you got to start messaging an acceptance of the situation, right? Like what a lot of people do when bad things happen or are happening is they're kind of in denial, like, oh, maybe this will go away tomorrow. Maybe this won't be that bad. Maybe this won't happen. And we see this around here in hurricanes, right? Like the hurricane gets close and everybody's like, maybe it wobbles to the left. Maybe it wobbles to the right. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe it won't be as strong. And that's normal, but you'd still want to prepare as if the category 5 is going to come dead on straight over your house. You still want to make those preparations. So accepting the pain that's there and is likely to happen is really important, because that's the part that allows you to take the next action, which is what can you do in that situation that you're in. So I'll give you an example. The dog daycare that we use. I was talking to them today. Their business is down because all the stay-at-home stuff, double digits. So what should somebody like that do? Well, if you think about groups of people who may be working 24-hour shifts or 48-hour shifts right now and have dogs, but now they can't just have their neighbors or family members come over to take care of it because those people are supposed to be in quarantine. And if, say, you're a healthcare worker and you're in the hospital, you don't want your friends and neighbors coming into your house where you may have accidentally spread the virus. So who takes care of the pet? Right? So there's an example where they could work through maybe their existing clients who are nurses or doctors and offer a deal or something to other nurses, doctors, firefighters, police officers, frontline retail workers.
Yeah, I've been seeing a big thing on like the very community-based, like pricing yourself out basically and just doing things for the community's sake of stuff. Like I've seen like people making masks that they're super cheap just so everybody can have like a homemade mask at this point, and not like shutting down whole factory lines just to do that. Yeah. And that's the same thing with the dog stuff. You can very easily do, you don't have to do their prices to do these things. You can do more community related stuff and build up that, because if it's going to come around in a couple of weeks, that's exactly what you want to do.
You're going to look really good.
Yeah.
You're going to look like you did the right thing. You're probably going to pick up new business from it when things start to thaw.
And what's the thing if it doesn't come back in a couple of weeks? Well, and what's the big risk in that,
your philosophy on a bad situation should be proud of the way you handled it, such that if the economy goes into depression, society comes to collapse, that you, like the captain of a ship in the 19th century, went down with your hand saluted into the water.
Yep.
Right? You want to be proud of the way you handled it, and that puts you in, and that also psychologically helps prepare you for if things get bad.
Yep.
Right? If your business goes away, if you go out of business, but you did everything right and you're proud of the way you handle it, you can move into that next phase.
Right.
With pride and dignity, and probably having built up for yourself some social capital that you'll need to trade on.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a huge part of it.
And so this is another way you should be thinking of it is how can you use this opportunity? And this sounds selfish, but it's not. If everybody did it, to build up social capital for yourself. And that's one way of doing it. And so, this kind of ties into the concept of, if you're a business leader and you start to see people doing this, is framing the value of the sacrifice, right? So if you're a restaurant owner right now and you're 3 weeks away from not being in business, you need to frame for your employees, and hopefully your governor, your mayor, whatever is framing value for you. It's, because of this sacrifice you're making, lives will be saved, fewer people will get sick, right? So framing the value of the sacrifice. And one of the things is, if you're going to ask people to make a sacrifice, you have to tie very closely that sacrifice to the measurable you're looking at. So take this action, and the result is this good thing that we want to see.
That's a part of like honesty as well, like not just being like, everything's great, everything's gonna be good, like we're gonna get out of this no matter what, like you're always gonna have a job, like we're not taking losses, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then it's okay to say we don't know what's going to happen. It's not okay to say we don't know what's going to happen, so we're gonna
just hang out.
Yeah. What that creates is, by the time, it could create a situation where by the time you see what you should do, it's too late to do it, because you got to move. Like you can't sit frozen. You have to start moving towards an objective. Like there's this saying that any plan beats no plan. A good plan still beats a bad plan, but any plan beats no plan.
Yeah.
Your plan may be sit tight. Like that's a viable business, but you got to have some idea of what you're looking for before you start to move.
Right.
And then the third one is, it's called thinking past the sale. You need to start painting the picture for your team or your customers, or your clients, or whatever it is. What does this look like past recovery? What are some things you can do right now to mitigate it? Like, what are those actions you can take? And even if it's, rearranging deck chairs on the deck chairs on the Titanic, that it's still something that was meaningful and provided value. And so what does it look like for mitigation, and what does it look like in recovery? Starting to help people see what that might look like, even if you're wrong about what that might look like, right? Like maybe, the aid packages don't work. Maybe your small business never gets any money. But painting the picture about what it could look like on the other side is important, because when people are in crisis mode, they're not seeing the other side. They're only seeing the next day or the next hour or the next week.
Yeah, right. It's like, is that kind of what you mean by like a mission kind of stuff? Like having people having a mission, having like a goal. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So, I mean, you want to give people affirmative actions they can take.
Okay. So
right? Like one of the problems
deliverables.
with this situation is what's being asked of people is to do nothing.
Yeah.
Like people are very bad at doing nothing in a crisis situation. People, for the most part, in a crisis, like want something they can do, and this is why. So, what's the thing people know that they can do right now that they're doing the hell out of?
Like grocery shopping.
Grocery shopping.
Okay, yeah.
I can buy stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's I can buy stuff, and so that's what they're doing. And you're not giving them these other things they can do. And so in a business, this means who can we offer our services to? Who could use it right now? It may help us build social capital, even if it doesn't build economic capital for us. Looking for items like that you can do.
Okay. Can you boil those 3 action points?
Yeah. You gotta accept the pain. Like you gotta acknowledge like this is what it is. Come to terms with it. This is where we are. Frame the value of the sacrifice for yourself and for your people. This is going to be hard, but this is why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like people in situations throughout history are willing to sacrifice to save society, right?
Yeah.
Like, but you have to frame it.
Yeah, right.
In terms of like, what are we actually fighting for?
Mm-hmm.
And then think past the sale. What does mitigation look like? What is recovery? Affirmative actions that aren't buying toilet paper.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is something you can do that's not buying toilet paper that helps everybody or helps your company or helps your clients?
Yeah, and I mean that can be outside of your company. That can literally just be calling people, staying in connection with people, helping your neighbors, stuff like that. It doesn't have to be going to the grocery store and thinking of other things I can buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll have bought all the stuff you can buy. And you'll need to
Yeah.
You'll need to do something with
Yeah.
it. But those things, so business, personally, that
Right.
those are the set of 3 things in a situation like this that set you up for whatever the future looks like. It puts you in the best possible position.
Right.
If it abates in 4 weeks, man, that business really did the right thing. They were messaging, and you see a lot of restaurants doing this, I think. And if it's not, if it ends up being like the worst case scenario, at least you can be proud of the way you handled it, because
Right.
that might be the only thing that's there.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
And some people like feel good about you, and they have mercy on you and give you a can of beans so you can live another 3 days. I don't know.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. All right. Well, that was short. That was quick.
Quickest ever.
Yeah, there we go.
Yep. We'll back tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
we're at
later
another
today.
one.
Who knows?
Yeah, right. No, yeah. Well, we'll try to do as many of these. I mean, we're trying to get at least one a day from now on. So we actually have a recording tomorrow, Wednesday, of our full digital update, and that will be coming out Thursday morning. So we will see y'all then.
Goodbye.
Bye.